We need to talk about your guilt, that little sting you get when you drive instead of taking the bus, or forget your reusable bag at the store. That guilt has a title. Its title is manufactured. For decades, we've been conditioned to see the climate crisis through the lens of our choices, our recycling, our travel, our good behavior. We're told to reduce, reuse, recycle, be better, try harder. But let me ask you something. Have you ever calculated your carbon footprint? Do you know who actually invented that idea? Because here's the truth. The entire concept of your personal carbon footprint was created by the fossil fuel giant BP. Not scientists, not environmentalists, British Petroleum. In 2004, with the help from Ogilvy and Mather, they invented a catchy phrase and one of the most effective PR deflections in corporate history. They took a global crisis they caused and pinned it on you. To understand this lie, you have to understand the corporate playbook. Powerful industries have spent decades perfecting the art of shifting blame, and BP's carbon footprint campaign is the crown jewel of that strategy. In 2004, BP launched its Carbon Footprint Calculator, a clever little tool designed to make you the protagonist of the climate crisis. And it worked. The term spread to the EPA, major news outlets, schools, nonprofits, everywhere. Suddenly, the debate was about your actions, not theirs. And this wasn't new. The fossil fuel industry borrowed directly from the tobacco industry's playbook. Hide the science, manufacture doubt, then tell the public it's all about individual responsibility. Corporate America has sold us this fantasy for decades. Have it your way. The customer is always right. The illusion that we are the ones in control, that corporations merely respond to our demands. Meanwhile, they were dumping more carbon into the atmosphere than entire nations. Let's wipe away the PR haze and look at the numbers, because when you do, the whole narrative collapses. Here's a fact. Just 100 companies are responsible for 71% of global industrial greenhouse gas emissions since 1988. Here's another one. Over half of all emissions come from just 25 of them. And one last one for the road. Fossil fuels alone make up 75% of emissions and 90% of all carbon dioxide released. And 5 companies, ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, ConocoPhillips, and Chevron, account for 11% of all global emissions just by themselves. This isn't just big oil either. While most of this video is talking about big oil, the 15 largest US food and beverage companies together produce more greenhouse gas emissions than the entire nation of Australia. And globally, the emissions from food waste alone are so massive that if food waste were treated as its own country, it would rank as the 3rd largest emitter in the world, right behind China and the United States. These are not individual issues. These are systemic decisions made in corporate boardrooms without our consent, and they become unforgivable when you realize they knew. The fossil fuel industry wasn't clueless. They weren't naive. They weren't caught off guard. They knew exactly what their products were doing. In the 1970s, internal documents show fossil fuel companies understood their emissions would cause severe environmental damage. Exxon knew all the way back in 1977, 11 years before the climate change discussions hit the zeitgeist. They kept drilling anyways. In 1989, a leaked internal Shell document laid out 2 futures. One, a sustainable world. The other, global mercantilism. A path of unchecked fossil fuel extraction, climate chaos, and mass displacement. Guess which path they chose? They chose the one that made them rich, and told the populace, don't just stand there, plant a tree. And while they did it, they spent decades undermining science, attacking climate experts, and ridiculing anyone who dared speak with urgency. That was the result of years of intentional doubt manufacturing. They lied. They hid the evidence, and they built a world where your choices were engineered around their product. Personal action matters, but we were never going to recycle our way out of a crisis caused by trillion-dollar corporations. Our global economy runs on what sociologists call the treadmill of production, a system that requires endless growth, endless consumption, and endless energy, a system fundamentally incompatible with a finite planet. This is why the dream of green growth is so dangerous. Research from Hickel and Callis shows there's no evidence we can grow the global economy and transition to renewables fast enough to avoid catastrophe. More growth means more energy demand. Renewables can't keep pace. And standing in the way of real change, the fossil fuel industry, with $6.7 trillion in financial weight. That money buys lobbyists, it buys lawmakers, it buys politicians like Joe Manchin, who blocked even the mildest climate reforms to protect coal profits. Even our cities were shaped by corporate influence. Public transit, crushed. Suburbs, engineered. Car dependency, forced onto us to guarantee one thing: a nation permanently hooked on oil. The result? A 2008 MIT study found that even a homeless person in America has a carbon footprint twice the global average. Not by choice, by design. So if the game is rigged, it's time to stop pretending the solution is better personal habits and start acting like what we really are: citizens. This is where the tone shifts, because while the problem is systemic, the solution is collective. Big oil companies want you to think of yourself as a consumer, someone defined by what you buy, someone whose only power is in responsible shopping. But our power, our real leverage, is as citizens or communities. Decades of real-world research shows that when local communities govern shared natural resources, forests, fisheries, irrigation systems, they often preserve them sustainably, not because they're saintly, but because they're connected. Trust, shared norms, and local rules. People managing common resources collectively can and do prevent ecological collapse. There's also the Citizens Convention for Climate that happened in France in 2019 to 2020, where 150 randomly selected citizens, from farmers to teachers to retirees, worked over months, studied expert testimony, debated among themselves, and produced 149 concrete systemic proposals to fight climate change. A constitutional environmental protections, regulation of polluting products, public transit expansion, restrictions on short-haul flights, mandatory housing renovations, and more. These weren't individual lifestyle tips. They were structural changes aimed at changing the system itself. And that matters because it shows what's possible when ordinary people, acting as citizens, not consumers, take power. So if you're feeling angry right now, good. Anger isn't the problem. Apathy is. Here are 3 actions that actually matter that you can displace that anger with. Education and agitation. Constantly educate yourself before the masses, those being your parents, your friends, and others you meet. Tell people where carbon footprint really came from. Always be learning about environmental consequences. A list of sources used in this video essay, as well as other good reading, will be in the description for your reading purposes. Number 2, organize. Join groups fighting the fossil fuel industry through lawsuits, divestment, and political pressure. Collective power is the only force corporations fear. Extinction Rebellion, Climate Action Network, Fridays for Future, and Sunrise Movement are excellent organizations for entryism into climate activism. And lastly, demand political change. Pressure your representatives to reject fossil fuel money and pass legislations that hold corporations accountable for their emissions, extraction to combustion. You can send your representatives a letter, an email. You can even try to visit them in person, harass them a little bit. This is their job, to represent your interests. So make sure they know what your interests are. Corporations invented the carbon footprint to hide their impact on global climate change. And it's time we demand the receipts. Thanks for watching, stay angry, stay organized.